Hello, and welcome to Tech Talks, FutureScape HR, where technology powers business success, an exclusive video interview series brought to you by the Economic Times in association with SAP SuccessFactors. I'm Yasmin Taj, editor features for ETHRWorld and ET Education by the Economic Times, and it's a pleasure to be amongst you today. With this series, we will dive into one of the most transformative aspects of modern business, the intersection of HR and technology. In an era where workplaces are being reimagined with AI, automation, and analytics, the role of HR has also evolved beyond just operations. Today, it is a strategic business driver delivering business outcomes. So through this series, we will dive into cutting-edge platforms and tools and technologies that top HR leaders are using to enhance productivity, to improve employee engagement, to manage performance management better, and to overall boost the employee experience that we're giving to our employees. Through real-world applications, through case studies and data-driven insights, these leaders will share their stories of transformation with us. And join me in welcoming two exceptional leaders today who are leading this transformation at their respective organizations. First up, we have with us Vinay Razdan, who's CHRO for HDFC Bank. Hi, Vinay. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. And we have James Thomas, who's Vice President and Head for SAP SuccessFactors India. Hi, James. Thank you for joining us. So we have some very interesting insights coming up, but before that, I'd like to do a brief introduction of our speakers. So Vinay is the Chief Human Resources Officer for HDFC Bank, one of India's leading private sector banks. Appointed in 2018, he is responsible for overseeing the entire human resources function at HDFC. With over 37 years of experience as an HR veteran, Vinay brings a wealth of knowledge from diverse sectors including FMCG, IT services, and telecommunications. Coming to James now, James is a seasoned senior management sales and business leader with more than 25 years of management and sales leadership, strategy and business development, alliances and challenge experience in creating and growing sustainable new businesses in emerging markets in Asia Pacific with particular focus on India. He combines a rich blend of entrepreneurial flair and experience with process-driven execution focus of large global corporations to establish, build, and sustain profitable businesses. So once again, a big thank you to both my guests here. Let's kickstart with the fun round of rapid-fire questions for the both of you. And I'm calling this section Tech in 10. So 5 questions for you, Vinay, 5 questions for you, James. So let's dive into that. So Vinay, the one HR technology you cannot live without.
I think the leave module for me.
I think most employees would agree. Thank you for sharing that. So digital first or people first? If you
Always
had to-
people first.
People first?
Yeah.
Amazing. One word to describe the future of HR.
Transformative, transforming people experiences
Yes.
whilst working.
Lovely. Great. What is the most underrated HR metric in your opinion?
I think the employee well-being aspect, the mental well-being aspect, we need to do much more work in that area.
Absolutely. The one leadership quality AI can never replicate according to you.
I think the human connect,
That's
irreplaceable. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you, Vinay. Your turn, James. So an AI use case in HR that excites you the most today?
Managing performance.
Okay, lovely. One common HR tech myth you would like to bust?
That a HR tech tool can manage change.
Yeah, interesting. HR or IT, who should drive digital transformation in HR?
HRIT.
HR, IT. Okay, interesting. One tech trend in HR that will dominate this year, 2025?
Skills.
Skills, okay. If SAP SuccessFactors was a superhero, what would be its superpower?
The magic portion we serve to CHROs.
Okay, interesting, lovely. So that was fun. Thank you so much. And now it's time to deep dive into the real heart of today's conversation. How is technology reshaping HR to deliver real business value? Vinay, I'd like to start with you first. So the banking sector overall is undergoing massive transformation today, especially digital transformation. So how is HDFC leveraging HR technology to equip its workforce with the necessary digital skills or mindsets to navigate this changing landscape in the AI-driven era today?
So I think given the landscape, the bank had embarked on creating a center of digital excellence about 7-8 years back, but which is the business end of the situation. Now, how do you equip the people who are dealing with customers, who are dealing with processes, and how can you make that piece work better? And also assessing credit and credit worthiness of various, whether on the retail side or on wholesale side or MSME side. I think there's enormous use of technology. in assessing, what could be the right mix of parameters which indicate credit worthiness in people or organizations. Coming to the HR side, I mean, we have a workforce of over 200,000 people. So if you are that large, when there are larger organizations, obviously, but we are distributed. We are not in few places. We are all over the country. So without having a good grip on technology and without having effective deployment of technologies, you cannot really take care of your people.
Absolutely.
So in every aspect, and as we progress in the interview, I'll definitely amplify more of that.
Yeah. So I think connecting with your large workforce, which is distributed, having a common platform from them to connect to each other, making sure every HR initiative reaches them. I think that's where technology is a very critical.
Yeah, absolutely. You see, we are in this sector, unfortunately, that's an Indian trend. We have a reasonable attrition.
Yeah.
So when you have 200,000 people, even if you have a low attrition of 20%, you're talking thousands of people are hiring.
Absolutely.
Even if you have to hire 30, 40,000 people, you have to put through about 70, 80,000 people through your process. So we have what we call as touchless hiring for entry-level roles. Last year alone, we put about 40,000 people through that process.
Wow.
So right from assessments, interviews, doing all those things without human touch is very essential. Otherwise, you'll have to have an army of people to do it for you. So whether it's learning agendas, we have a state-of-the-art learning platform called Empower, in which we curate journeys for people, learning paths for people, which are AI-driven. You put down your role definitions, you put down your experience, you put down the skills that you have and you want. There will be curated learning journeys which will get created for you. So that is the learning part. We recently launched a service where if you ask a query on various employee policies, you put a query down and the AI tool will just read through the policy and answer the question. So the IQ is what we call it internally. So deployment of that in all aspects is something that is very, very intrinsic and integral to the way we are managing our work.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Vinay. James, I'd like to come to you now. So according to you, how can HR tech platforms better integrate with other business systems like CRM or finance to provide a more holistic view of talent and its impact on business performance going beyond just the HR metrics that we see?
Yeah. Oh, very interesting question. So I look at it in three layers. The first is the data strategy itself, right? So how do you get the people data connected across from a single data model perspective in the way you radiate the single source of truth across the organization? Then you move to, I think Vinay made a wonderful point on the process layer, where you talk of interactive journeys on learning so there is a connected, empowered processes that you need to run across the organization with people as front and center to it, which is the second dimension. And the third is obviously it's the age of employee experience, where AI is kind of overlaying on top of it. So even AI, when you look at processes or sub-processes in HR, you need to go beyond that in terms of an organizational view to how it radiates and reflects across the organization. So there's a need for agentic AI or AI use cases to be seamless across the organization. So those are the three. So data strategy, connected processes, and employee experience in the age of AI.
And where are you seeing organizations fit into this? Are organizations already at par with these trends?
I think from across industries, different industry segments operate at different levels of maturity across these three layers too. Banking definitely as a very a strong IT aware industry is quite mature when it comes to data and processes. I think the absorption of AI because of the kind of industry it is, I think there has to be a relevant, responsible adoption of that. So there are a lot of considerations when it comes to looking at AI. So that's possibly in early stages would be what.
Thanks, James. That was some very interesting insights on data strategy, connected processes, and looking at how we can amplify our HR functions in the AI era. Vinay, would you like to add something?
Yeah, and a very good set of points made by James. The thought which came to my mind because I have seen the entire gamut of HR where there was no technology. Having started work in '88, the introduction of computers, and a very funny thing to relate, but the size of the studio where we are sitting, we had Burroughs 1800 system, which all it used to do was process salaries for about 1800 workmen in ITC Limited, Sarandur, where I was posted. To seeing the kind of power that you carry in your mobile device today, it's a, it's worlds apart kind of a situation. But what tends to happen is the business, because it generates revenue, tends to get the first shot at having budgets and resources. And therefore, the technologies that come into play land there first. And that's the right choice for organizations. For HR, it's been, and 20 years back, or 25 years back, I was part of a SAP task force in ITC. And the SAP HR module was of a certain kind. And today it is very, very different. Whether you go to that particular module or any other solution, the issue in HR is that how do you stitch all the applications together? Because you would have implemented various applications at various points in your journey. So there is, there's no common thread linking it all together. So that is a problem which needs to be bridged for HR.
That integration.
Then all the, thing about the integrity of data and the employee experience and everything else falls in place. But there has to be flow of data, one source of data and flow of data, keeping the employee experience in mind, which you need to stitch together from an architecture point of view. It's not that I want to do a R&R module, so therefore let me put an app there in the R&R space. Okay, I want to manage the performance piece better, so can I get this? Well, the problem is today, because there's so much of startups there, they don't have the wherewithal to focus on the total architecture. So what do? They pick up one piece and they come and tell you, okay, you want to do a better job on your employee engagement, then this is the solution we have for you. And you think, okay, this can make me better from where I am today, so let me adopt it. So you got disparate systems sitting all over. And that's the challenge that the organizations have to, I guess, address in the years ahead to make it better and a seamless.
Yeah, because at times organizations kind of invest in small technologies without understanding unification and integration is so critical, and having one unified platform. Otherwise, implementation and adoption becomes a big challenge. So thanks for sharing that. Also, Vinay, I think you spoke about it earlier also a bit, that your headcount has seen like a massive jump recently. So how do you manage such a large workforce, 200,000 plus employees across geographies, across verticals? And how are you at HDFC? What technology, how are you using technology to do this?
Every crisis has got a silver lining. I think the crisis that COVID pandemic brought with it, the silver lining to that was the extreme pace which got picked up in adoption of various technologies, particularly the virtual connect that we have, the Teams, the Zoom, and so on and so forth. I mean, if you just see 5 years back, who was using Teams?
Yeah,
No one.
hardly. Yes.
I mean, where was Zoom? Nowhere. And in the initial days of COVID, in fact, organizations were struggling because, you had platforms you wanted to connect, but then you had broken experiences right through. But also, I think that phase gave a lot of opportunity for people to realize that I don't physically need to visit so many geographies, which is not an easy task because, travel involved, all the associated things. But this gave you an opportunity to connect in a much shorter time, a multiple X kind of audience. I have a 600 plus team in HR, for example, in the bank. I can talk to them every day, all 600, right? Similarly, our business leaders use remote technologies like all these which are available. So I think that's one of the most powerful shifts which has happened, that one to many or many to many kind of communications which can happen, which technology is underpinning that. The other is that how do we deliver a consistent employee experience across the whole organization? A person in Guwahati or a person in Gorakhpur should have the same employee experience, right? So there, I think technology is a silver bullet, so to say, because, and that's why I love technology, because when you automate, your process errors comes down significantly, because if you've got manual handling of data, manual entry of data, multiple touching of the same data sets, it leads to errors, howsoever diligent the people may be. So ensuring that you have what James called out as a single source of truth, therefore your data management is a prime aspect of it. And then that flows into everything else, your learning systems, your onboarding systems, your performance systems, and mobile apps. Today we have I'll give you a simple example, but it makes a difference. Technology has to make a positive difference in the lives of people. In a banking environment, when I joined about 6.5 years back, I realized that people are very hardworking in this sector. And also, people were running to their desktops because they had to open that attendance application and log in their attendance. And if you're 1 minute above the time of 9:30, then it'll ask you, why are you late? You know, people used to crib that when I leave after 5:30, it doesn't ask me why am I late. But it used to be there in the morning. So one of the things that we did was to have geo tagging, geolocations and all those things. So within 50 meters through your mobile now, you can download and you can simply. So that makes life easy for people. So multiple ways we have adopted technology, whether in learning space, whether in management of queries, whether in leave taking, performance appraisal, so on and so forth. And that's really ensured that the quality of experience is consistent across a distributed organization that we are. And that's very important for us.
So James, coming back to you now, a little bit more on the regulatory landscape, especially for HR tech. So how is the HR tech industry evolving to keep pace with the changing regulatory landscape of the banking industry specifically?
Yeah, I mean, governance and regulation is definitely getting heightened importance. Obviously, there are several bills across the world. Even India, we have enacting new rules around it. So I look at it. One is the data privacy, data security, and access to data. How do we really manage through technology that effectively, right? Then comes the reporting side of things, both statutory or otherwise. From a compliance perspective, a lot of demands on banks, particularly, or the banking industry, in terms of the regulators or other bodies wanting reports and information a lot more periodically or in real time. So how does technology really enable and make life easy for the organization to really provide the relevant data thereof? That's the second area. The third, I think, a new emerging area, which I would say, which earlier I alluded to, and I think Vinay also mentioned it, is how do we really, I mean, the kind of volumes that Vinay mentioned or the scale at which Vinay is operating, how do you eliminate bias? How do you really look at fairness, equity in the way a large organization that Vinay represents runs it? I think there are dimensions where technology is starting to really look at how do we become relevant, reliable, and responsible in the way those decisions are being made by banks.
Yeah.
So that's where I see the
Relevant,
regulatory frame.
relevant,
Responsible, and reliable.
Reliable. Interesting. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Vinay, your thoughts also around, the banking industry is very, very heavily regulated. So how does the bank ensure that its HR tech are compliant and all relevant regulations and data privacy requirements, especially in terms of employee data management, are taken care of?
So I must tell you, the 30 years that I spent outside of banking, the word compliance, risk,
Didn't exist.
audit, no, they existed. And I came from telecom, which was also a regulated industry.
Yeah.
But it was at a very different level, I would say. And here it is, it's very, very serious. It's very serious. And in the 6.5 years that I've seen, it's become much more, it's gone up multiple X, I would say. So anything and everything that you want to do, you first think compliance, you think risk, you think audit, and then you think what to do, So and that's the nature of the industry, and it is very important. And obviously, that's the first thing you love about technology. That it's not like any piece of paper lying with some data and anyone can take it. The fact is, if you got data, then you have access rights. You have trails of who's got what set of data available and who's done what with it. So obviously, there are a lot of governance aspects from doing audits, even external audits that we have to go through from time to time, compliance regulations which need to be complied with, and they keep on becoming more and more. It's not easy to comply, and it really makes us think that how can we do this better. I'll just give 2 examples. In banking industry, you have a position, what could be known as a sensitive position. So therefore, people who occupy sensitive positions have to be sent on surprise leave. No information, just to be sent on surprise leave. And to maintain that and to report that to the risk committee and then to be audited by the regulator and the internal auditor also, whether you've been at it through the year every 12 months. So it is something that calls for, serious level of diligence. Similarly, mandatory leaves, for example,
The
this
bank
is,
leave.
yeah, people have to be away from their desk for a certain length of time. And then what happens to their excess and so on and so forth. So all these are heavily audited, heavily kind of checked. And ultimately, HR has to play an important role in these things. You could argue, does it create any value or not? I don't know whether it creates value or not, but it is something, if you have a breach on, then you have a problem.
Exactly.
If you don't have, again, deployment of applications which can help you in tracking this on a regular basis and keeping on top of it, then you can run into a problem.
Yes, exactly. So that's how you have to keep pace with the changes that are happening, government wise, industry wise. So technology becomes helpful in that, right? But how do you manage employee data and privacy? Those aspects also.
I think, we have become much better on that in the sense that our HR tech journey has become quite robust over the last many years. Our handle on the kind of databases, management that we have, the practices around that, the access rights around that, and the discipline that we have around all those things has improved significantly with the deployment of technology across all life cycle of an employee in the organization. So that you have to take it very seriously, because if you have a data leak and you have employee data floating outside, it can land you in serious trouble. And we haven't had a single instance like that till now. So we just need to be vigilant.
Yeah, vigilant. Good. Thanks for sharing that, Vinay. Coming back to you, James. Now, I think culture also plays a very key role when you're deploying HR technology in your organization. So, according to you, what key organizational or cultural changes are necessary to fully realize the potential of HR tech and transform the way banks work today?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing as technology is disrupting industries across, the first thing is change management. It's all the mindset. I'm sure Vinay of the years would have seen, as he said, where no technology to the kind of AI infusion today. The first thing is, how do you manage change and how much to manage at a given point in time? You don't want to bite more than what you can chew. So there is a calibration that banks and across industries that organizations are looking at, how to effectively manage change and how much of technology should be consumed and what is the journey. So technology is today becoming a journey in the way you are transforming organizations. So that's the first big piece. The second then is, I think Vinay brilliantly put the challenge with disparate systems and the challenge with data silos. So how do you then bring employees in a very guided, intuitive, empowered state when it comes to their awareness of technology as well as using technology? A lot of times we skill employees for the roles they do, but do we engage employees across the organization, the 200,000, in understanding technology and how to harness technology, which is another, I think organizations are looking at that adoption on, for example, AI. You look at it. Do employees really know how to leverage and harness the best of AI in increasing their productivity or enhancing their experience or their day in the life? So they need to be trained and equipped, which is, in my view, again, a big shift that we are seeing in organizations in how they are looking at that across the organization. The third, I think, is people, I love that. When I moved into HR tech, uh, I didn't realize, a lot of organizations for HR automation or technology into HR was the last bastion. But today, I'm so fascinated that organizations are coming to us and really want people's side of things to really be transformed and how technology can enable it. So people becoming really pivotal in what organizations of the future will be in their top line, bottom line, or the overall success of organizations has become more profound. COVID just accelerated it. I think Vinay again mentioned the mental health and well-being aspects, right? So from data and process, looking at what needs to be done, the how it's being done has got added to it. What has not gone away, but the how. So the empathy, the considerations, the personalization that we need to do on how we approach the what has become equally important. So those are the 2 or 3 shifts that we are seeing. I think, Vinay alluded to some of it, but yeah, we are seeing those clearly emerging in organizations as priorities.
Yeah, I just want to add a couple of points, very well made points by James. The shift which has really happened is that there was a time when people had an opportunity to experience technology inside the organization because it wasn't available outside
Yeah,
in their lives.
exactly.
Right.
Agree.
So because organization resources, money, whatever, they could, I was an ITC, so, it could, back in 98, we had mobile phones, those kind of things.
Not everyone had access. Yeah.
And we had a ERP kind of a task force in 98. We implemented something around that. So way ahead of time. You didn't have all these things available outside. Today, it is diametrically opposite. Today, the kind of tech experience people are having in their personal lives, they're getting irritated at the pace of the organization.
I agree. Absolutely.
So they're
Yes.
coming inside the organization and they think, why is this like this? Why is it not more intuitive? Why is it not like Amazon, Netflix kind of a experience that is happening? And therefore, change management is also the part of the change which needs to be managed is to bring in some kind of pragmatism in people that work with what you have, because organizations invest, they need to realize the investment fully before they keep on changing the versions of technology. It may make you happier, but it affects your bottom line. So that's the other aspect of it.
Yeah, I think change management, as you said. So while you can implement a lot of technology, how are people adopting that technology? Are they, feeling at ease with it? That's also another challenge, as you said. So that culture of communication, constant communication, that culture of building trust with technology and having the right platforms in place for people to feel, I think that intuitiveness while using is very, very
Just
critical.
to add to that, I
Yeah.
think Vinay made a brilliant point on this aspect on consumer grade experience in the enterprise.
Yes.
Right? Now, at SAP or SuccessFactors, this is something that we always debate. How much fancy stuff to add, the cool things to add,
Yeah.
versus the real industry scale, robust enterprise class experience. These are two, dimensions where the investments and the priorities are always conflicting. So I think you need to really look at, and that's where players like SAP really play a great importance in terms of looking at that robustness to an organization while being pragmatic about the consumer grade experiences. Otherwise, you can get very fanciful with the outside world and try to do all that within the organization, which will not last the test of time.
It's about drawing the line between what's really needed and the frills that you can have. So you might want to have some frills also, but the basics have to be rightly put in place, I believe. So thanks for sharing that. When I come into you again, finally, looking ahead, what are the biggest challenges and opportunities that you're seeing for HR leaders across the banking industry? And how can technology help them navigate these challenges and capitalize on these opportunities?
Yeah, I think there are multiple ways to look at it. I think one is obviously you can approach it from what is incremental kind of a view, that we have technology, we have people, how can we deploy it and make the experience of people better, consistent? How can we up the applications that we have and make it all, cover all aspects of employee life cycle or whatever you're trying to do. So there is, when you walk into work, you don't have to touch anything. The facial scan, the door opens for you, your attendance is registered, and you can just keep on building that fanciful stuff that he talked about. But okay, it can happen. That's one aspect of it. The other is that, you know, technology also makes you believe, if you read the papers or if you see the debates on AI and singularity and so on and so forth, then it makes you believe that you're going to be redundant tomorrow. And it's all going to be a tech-driven world. Tech in the sense technology and bots and robots and all that, and possibly human beings. And those times I feel very happy that I'm nearing retirement. I don't have to see all that. But that's the sense you get, you know. I think my view on this is very simple, that just like any other tool, technology is a tool for you. I mean, if you need to fly a airplane, you don't need to know how the airplane is built. You need to fly it to get from point A to point B. Okay. So therefore, technology can be transformative for you. It can get you to do a multiple X better job of your customer experience. It can get you to do a multiple X better job of your employee experience. It can ensure that your people are deployed in very high value roles instead of doing transactional roles. How can you take the repetitive and the mundane out of it and really use technology to take care of that? It may mean leaner headcount also, but it will mean highly skilled people. And I'll give you an example how actually technology can be transformative, something that, in future it must happen. Lot of organizations talk about roles when they hire, that we are hiring for this role, we are hiring for this role. Now, in India, you have a phenomena. You don't have this phenomena across the world of the attrition that we have. It's a business problem. If you're losing 1 in 5% every year, then the second person also must be thinking not getting or getting not taking, whatever happens to it. So the issue here is that you have lot of roles into where people are exiting or people are coming in, or they are lying vacant also for a length of time, because talent market is, you are continuously working at it. Now, thing is, I think the granularity that's a discipline HR functions need to build. We need to break down a role into skills. What are the skills required to deliver a particular job? And say these are the top 3 or 4 skills required to deliver a job. How can I get a completely untrained person, but having the right learning agility, having the right attitude, having the right service orientation, and all those things, train him up using technology, gamification, virtual, reality, augmented reality, or whatever have you, in hours and days instead of weeks and months. How can I make that person productive in a basic role? And therefore then get over the resistance of a manager that why should I take this person, learning curve, doesn't know how to do the job, banking environment, process violations, my audit score will suffer, all those kind of things come in. So actually deploying it at a granular level, and then you can slowly bring it up. Because as you grow up the organization, you have more thought leadership, strategic agility coming in. But in the transitional roles, which are a significant number in a banking environment, you can actually use technology very effectively in getting people skilled up in shortest period of time and getting them productive and hit the deck running on day one into those roles. And if you can make a precise industrial process out of these things, that is a real advantage to the organization, because the lack of which is resulting in broken process experiences, customer experiences, and so on and so forth. So you have to address the real issues. And if you use technology to that end, I think it will be a transformative experience.
So, technology can be used to amp up all your processes,
Absolutely.
scale them up, make them more efficient, and in short, have people who are ready to do the job at a shorter span of time, get trained easily, get hired easily. I think that's where, and I think HR leaders have to really pay attention to this kind of deployment of technology. So that's interesting. Thanks for sharing there. Coming back to you, James. So, what are the innovations, specifically AI, that SAP is bringing for enterprises today? SAP SuccessFactors, in fact, is bringing to enterprises today.
Yeah, so obviously it has been a journey, and one of the biggest things that as a wholesome enterprise provider that we believe in is looking at the entire business context, applications context, and the semantics getting integrated across the organization. While people are, as I earlier mentioned, front and center to how organizations are evolving, but you need AI to be more holistic. If you get into isolated processes or sub-processes and then look at how AI is emerging on top of it, you may miss a few other aspects to where it needs to be. So our approach is we have come up with what's called the business data cloud, which is a kind of a data fabric which is overlaying on top of the domain areas of each of the functional applications. And then the whole business context and the semantics context is brought up onto that layer. And then you're building AI use cases on top of it. So whether it is for performance and goals, as I said, to really make life easier for an employee in terms of the passion and purpose and what, while within the overall ambit of the organization, what are the performance goals or development goals that one should have? How do you track it? How do you provide visibility and transparency to your manager and rest of the organizations on how you're going about it? Or whether it is aspects like how do you manage time to availability of people in the organization better to roles? Or whether, as Vinay said, the need for granular information is giving way to what is called talent intelligence much deeper. So with technology and automation, what's happening, for example, in the AI world is you need to understand the employee a lot better. The kind of data points that you looked at 10 years back or 5 years back is no longer sufficient. That's becoming table stakes today, right? So there is a huge shift in the way data itself is being pulled up to what are the inferences that you need to draw, or like when Vinay says 1 in 5 is attriting every year, how do you really look at retention strategies? What is causing? Even if you can impact it by 5%, 10%, 20%, that's significant. It will run into thousands of employees where you're shifting the game for them to be more inspirational, more motivated to continue to work for you. And if you can make an employee work for a month longer, a year longer, few months longer, imagine the overall impact on the organization from a people cost perspective, organizational efficiency perspective, productivity perspective, etc., etc. So we are focused on bringing that AI strategy together. Obviously, on HR, we are leading that because we believe the next decade of organizations is going to be, the differentiation is going to be people. So at SAP, we are focusing on AI use cases, particularly on the people dimension, and how people can really harness the strength of AI to unlock potential in other parts of the processes within the organization.
Great points, James. I think, as I said, one is AI for people, one is people for AI, right? How do you firstly, get AI to understand what people are looking for, and then you help them use AI to become better at what they're doing. So efficiency obviously is key to all of this.
So just to add on that, so I keep saying this.
Yeah.
It is not that AI will replace people, but people with AI, with knowledge of AI, will replace people without the knowledge of AI.
Yeah, absolutely agree to that. Great. Thank you so much. A closing question now, I think, and another just a fun one-liner. Vinay, let's ask you, if you had to give one piece of advice to HR leaders to start doing something and stop doing one thing when it comes to the overall transformation of their HR function, what would that be?
Clearly, on the HR tech space, I feel that you must have a sense of an overall architecture. Because the way it has evolved over time is into disparate set of applications for variety of reasons. Maybe budgeting is a issue, maybe solutions weren't available, maybe something else was a problem. But you going forward must have a view that how are you going to stitch it all together? Because unless it doesn't come together, it's going to impact the efficiency and whatever. And the fallout of this is what is the point they should not do is to run after every second fad which comes along in terms of a startup solution.
I agree.
Because a lot of times for people, they want to show impact, they want to show they arrived in an organization or in a role and they think this is the way to create an impact. And sometimes it's the right way also, not questioning that. But then it must fit into your overall strategy somewhere of technology. Otherwise, you'll just end up having lots of pieces together which are not talking to each other and which end up giving broken experiences to people, which is not desirable.
So understand the architecture, first of all, overall, and secondly, the focus on unification and not...
Because now I think, and we are hearing from authority in this field, James is saying that next decade is going to be people being the differentiators. If that be the case, then the necessary support in terms of all the resourcing and everything else will also be there. So now is the right time, and there is a lot of technology evolution also which has happened in this space, concerning how do you manage the human resource of organization better. So now is the right time for us to take a pause and get an overall sense of things the architecture of things before we go headlong into adopting something else.
Absolutely agree. Thanks, Vinay. Your final thoughts on that, James. What should we start doing? What should we absolutely stop doing when it comes to the digital transformation, HR transformation?
First is, I think, get your data strategy right.
Yeah.
I think a lot of organizations tend to assume that they got the data thing right. But to Vinay's point, it's lying in disparate segments in most organizations without really having a realization of how significant it is to bring that data strategy in terms of a single data model and a single source of truth together, particularly when it concerns people.
Yeah.
So that's one clear area to really look at and start. An area which I would look at organizations to start delimiting is getting into fancy investments in point solutions.
Yeah.
You need to have, I think Vinay put it brilliantly on the architecture. So you need to have an overall roadmap and a journey. And you can't just do this in 6 months or a year or 2 years. So it's a journey, and you need to build the foundation for that journey rather than being point investments, which you find really creating more roadblocks for you as you go. So stop investing in point solutions, have a journey and a roadmap to the solution architecture and the deployment philosophy that you should have in where you want to guide your organization. Banking industry will be very specific. Within that, a large bank like HDFC that Vinay represents will have a certain agenda. A smaller bank would possibly prioritize a little different.
Interesting. Thank you. So be more intentional, I think, in your HR tech investments. Try to make them more intuitive. Listen to your employees. I think that's what I'm kind of gathering from all of you here, that it's really time to kind of unify your systems, integrate, let all systems talk to each other. And that's how the role of HR becomes even more profound and not just operational. So a very, very powerful discussion. Thank you, Vinay. Thank you, James, for your time. I think what we take away from this is that HR is no longer just an operational function. It is a strategic business advisor today. It delivers business outcomes, and technology is the foundation of this entire transformation that it is leading. So thank you so much for joining us. And I hope you enjoyed watching this episode. Stay tuned for more such interesting episodes coming up on Tech Talks FutureScape HR. Till then, stay curious, stay future ready, and lead the transformation. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.